4. I'm very happy to see a lot of you back. A lot of people still in the courtyard, but yeah, I think we're the busiest stage today, so that's that's good. Yes, we're going to start the next session right away. We're going to talk about upgrading products with Mohammed from our solution architects team, and and we have from our product team Vova. Put your hands together.
Hello everyone. Yes, so today I would like to talk to you about upgrading Spryker projects. And today, myself, I'm hosting this meeting. My name is Volodymyr Lunov, or shortly Vova, as probably most of you know me. And I'm with the product team responsible for developer experience, trying to make developers as happy as possible. And I have Mohammed.
I am Mohammed, I'm a senior solution architect, and I try to turn fuzzy requirements into an awesome Spryker platform.
Yeah. So now let's meet our audience. I have one question for all of you guys, and it's hard to see you, but I will try. How often do you upgrade your Spryker projects? Answer number 1, never, because Spryker is stable, secure, and fully feature-rich for your needs. Please raise your hands.
Yeah.
So 1, 2, 3,
7.
5, 7?
Yeah,
Oh,
around
great.
7.
So you upgrade your projects at least yearly? No, 1. 1.5. Okay. You upgrade your projects monthly? 3, 4, 5. Okay. And finally, I'm disturbing you right now because you are upgrading literally as I'm speaking. Who? Really?
Yes.
Okay, we will check it afterwards. Let's move on. Today we would like to cover a few things. So we would like to discuss or explain you why to upgrade, usually discuss the challenges that you might be having. We would like to also show you benefits or how Spryker is trying to make this journey easier and more accessible to you.
Come in and I actually give you an idea on how it works and give you an idea what's the impact that it brings when it works and finally show you how it actually works. And if you like the idea, I can go ahead with showing you how to set it up and access it.
Great. So
The case studies would be in the end.
yes, and of course at the end we will talk about a few case studies that I forgot. Thank you very much. So why to upgrade? As of now, probably if you check your pocket, you have a phone. If you open your laptop, and every other week, patch Tuesdays or every month, you receive upgrades because software is flexible, right? So you need to keep it up to date to have value of it, to don't have security problems, and etc. Right? And this is everywhere. So you need to upgrade the software you're using to have access. What exactly it brings? So first of all, it's of course access to the latest features of the software that you're using in your work every day or in your business. Then, of course, being compliant regarding security rules that you have with your company, being able to mitigate vulnerabilities if they are found, and yeah, having secure your software up to date. Especially, like we were mentioning in the first talk about geopolitical situation, about hackers, different countries, so security is one of the most important things. And of course, longevity of your solutions that you're using, because if you're not upgrading software, the software becomes outdated, it becomes automatically technical debt for you that you will have to pay at some point, sooner or later. And of course, at Spryker, we don't want that you build technical debt. We would like to decrease your TCO and ensure that you can easily install upgrades, new features, bug fixes, security fixes, whatever you name it. What challenges do you usually have? So compatibility issues. Raise your hands who had compatibility issues when updating anything. Okay, oh many, yes, I guessed it. Then integrating stuff. So imagine that the new library releases new features and you have challenges integrating it. You can also raise your hands if you had this experience. Yes, again, yeah, very good. A compatibility of customizations that you built, like a Spryker or any other software versus what the vendor is releasing. How often have you, oh yes, everyone is pulling the head now. Okay, great. Then of course, like documentation or understanding what the release is about, right? Because usually from your normal journey, if you use NPM or Composer, you just pull a bunch of packages and you have no idea what this is about actually. Yeah. Then security, right? So how often are you faced into needing to pull the concrete version of the module or package, npm, whatever, because somebody found security vulnerability? Yeah, and many more. At Spryker, we've built a tool which allows to simplify those upgrades because it tries to improve your experience with different dimensions. So first of all, we try to take most of your manual, boring effort that you have out of it. And from our case studies, it's even about 72 and even more % of the efforts. Yeah. Of course, it helps to detect potential conflicts in your code. So for example, it finds the customizations which became incompatible with Spryker and it will show you. It prioritizes security updates. So with Spryker, we maintain a database of all the releases which are related to security, and the tool will apply the security release first to your projects. Then the whole idea of the tool is to change the habit of upgrading to a continuous process where you can integrate it into your Scrum Agile process and that you start doing in small pieces but more often. It packages the upgrades in comparison to having a composer update with 1,000 of modules. You have a smaller pull request with less modules or less releases. And finally, it connects everything to the documentation. So for each upgrade that we are offering, it's linked to the release notes or to the integration notes in case of incompatibilities on the major level. Let's move on.
That's where I come in, and that's give you an actual high-level idea on how it works. So assuming you already have the Spryker upgrader kind of integrated into the pipeline together with your own repository. So from a high level, how it works is that the pipeline pulls in the latest releases. It creates a new branch compared to the target branch that you have assigned it to it. And based on your branch state versus the latest release, then it kind of creates a pull request that you can review by yourself and then integrate. I'll give you an overall idea afterwards, but from a high level, it has an integration with your repository. It pulls the latest release, and then it creates a branch with a pull request according to the number of minor patches in releases that were configured. You will have an idea afterwards what I'm talking about. But before that, assuming that you kind of have it integrated, the impact of it before integrating it is that you actually need to go through all the list of the steps for the upgrade journey. And this is normally where most of the devs lose their mental health, let's say, because you actually need to go through manual checks of going through the releases, checking which releases matches your upgrade that you want to actually include, then manually configuring the configurations, dependency injection, etc. And then afterwards, running local tests and moving ahead with fixing any customizations on the project. And all of this, you are still actually in the implementation phase. You didn't reach the validation steps. So most of the steps here are your responsibility when you don't have an actual upgrader. Now, when you have upgrader, or Spryker code upgrader, you will still have your responsibility of actually validating the merge request or the pull request and testing it and then finally releasing it into your production. But most of the manual steps that reduce your mental health are actually done by the code upgrader, such as going through the releases, checking the documentations, excluding the models that you don't need, and even proposing models that might be relevant according to your composer JSON, and also hinting what kind of project customizations that you need to check that they might conflict with the new upgrade. So yeah, since we are in the dev stage, I guess it's enough of the fancy slides, and I can show you how it works on a live demo. Hopefully it will work this time. I will try my best, but I will try to show you how to connect the repository, how to evaluate your actual repository in comparison to the compatibility with the code upgrader, meaning how far you are or how close you are on using the code upgrader, and then finally executing it and checking the outcome. Yeah, so we can switch to the demo. Hopefully you can see something. Is it bad quality? It's all good? Okay, I will just go ahead. So normally when you have access, this is the Spryker CI that you have access to. It's powered by Body CI, and you will have access to just the platform of your organization. You will already have Spryker Upgrader included there, so Spryker pipelines, and it will already be configured kind of out of the box with the common default standard configuration. And from your side, the first step you will need to do is actually to create your project or link your project. That's when it comes to add a project based on which version control that you are using. So GitHub, Bitcup, Bitbucket, GitLab, etc. And afterwards, you definitely need to go through, pick one example here of adding a new one. You will need to choose the scope, so workspace or just a project. Ensure that you have the permissions and including it as an integration, and authorizing the actual integration to Spryker CI. Once you do all of this, you kind of have just the integration included. Afterwards, you still need to go through and create the project, so I will not go through adding the integration. I'll just go through showing you how it works when you already have the integration in place. So assuming here we have GitHub integration, we have here the organizations. I will use Edward, I'm not sure if he's here. So once you have the organization linked, you have the list of the repositories that are within your organization. You can choose one of them that you want to sync with the code upgrader. So one of these kind of would be used as a target branch to creating any new pull request in regards to the releases. So I will not go through again with syncing all of this because I have it already in place. And I was actually running the kind of upgrader before the presentation, few minutes, assuming that it will last. This was actually faster than I assumed. And normally, before going to actually running the upgrader, you need to ensure that you have the configuration in place. And that's when you get to, just reach it. So right now we have the repository linked, and this is the code that we have for kind of the repository that we have chosen. You have the branches, and you can actually choose a target branch, meaning that you might have multiple branches, you might be creating different branches for different releases, and therefore you can be choosing and switching between each branch when you want to run the upgrader, and each time it will create you a different pull request based on the target branch, and therefore give you flexibility on testing different releases on different branches with different teams. So I will have here the target branch upgrade demo, and on the configuration of the variables and the keys for the pipeline, let me just go backwards. So here you have the variables that you have possibility to change on the upgrader, and this is kind of minor versions and patched versions that you want to include per each pipeline run. So for example, in this case, I want to ensure that the max allowed minor versions is 20. So what happens is that when I run the upgrader goes through the oldest version that I have versus the releases going up. And when it reaches 20 minor versions within one run, it stops and it creates a pull request. I merge it, and then again, I run another pipeline run. And I can increase this or decrease it accordingly, and depending on how mature my kind of repository in regards to upgrader. So once you have everything set when it comes to the variables, then you go to running the upgrader. But before that, we have the scheduling option, which is here. You can set up how fast or kind of how often do you want to run the upgrader. You have two options, either running it manually by going in, triggering the upgrader manually, that's what I will show you here, or scheduling the upgrader to run on actual schedule each week, each day, etc. And in this case, I will just run it manually. And here you have the upgrader pipeline. You can see that I ran one 7 minutes ago.
So really, you are upgrading literally the time.
Yeah, I actually thought that it would take longer, but it was 7 minutes, and that's, let me check the timeline. Yeah, so this is kind of the result of the upgrader. It creates a merge request. And you go to the pull request, it was, 23 minutes ago. And you can see the releases that were applied. You can see how much effort you saved by actually running the upgrader. and also any new models that might be interesting for you based on kind of your actual composer JSON that you might want to integrate, for example. And you can see here the list of packages that were upgraded from to what version. And when you go to the commits, you actually have it separated by commits. Therefore, you might even exclude the commits that you don't want to include in this pull request to have the full flexibility. And this is what we call by packaged upgrading, meaning that it's actually in packages and you can play with it around, increase or decrease or exclude or include commits that you want. And this is the files changed in the end, including the composer and the list of modifications that I would have to do as a dev manually, going through and adding the plugins, configurations, dependency providers, etc. Yeah, so normally I skipped one step, which I want to show you later on in the slides, and that's the evaluator, and that's when you check the compatibility of your repository in comparison to the guidelines from the Spryker code upgrader. And you can see here that I run the evaluator. It runs few checks for me, so kind of dev code checker, dev packages checker, security checks, etc. I had few successes, but I think I had one failed, yeah, because I don't have the latest security kind of update on one of the packages, and this is why kind of it shows you that it's a red pipeline, it failed. But yeah, this pipeline, so the evaluator gives you an idea of how far your repository is in comparison to the guidelines from our side, or from Spryker side, Spryker code upgrader side. And yeah, so this is it. This is the result. And if we go back to the slides, that's it for the demo. Yeah, so if we go back for the slides, hoping that that actually brought the effect that it was supposed to, you're actually already thinking how to set it up and how to have an access guide. So the technical readiness is already available in the documentation, but from a very high level, you just need to ensure that your project, to some extent, is following the upgradability guidelines that we have publicly available. Secondly, you need to ensure that the minimum version is the 2020, I think, yeah, 2020.04, and PHP version as well, 8.0, even though it's not supported anymore, so 8.1. And you need to ensure that you are actually in PaaS, in cloud from Spryker side, so that you can get access to the Spryker CI. And when it comes to the best practices, so kind of what we have learned based on other customers that were running it, one of the most important things is actually to have a strategy or a process in place already for upgradability, so that you can streamline this process into having, let's say, synchronized upgrades with automated iterations, meaning that you really need to work on having a standardized process of upgrades, but you can reach the point when you can have automated iterations without any involvement from the dev team, or kind of minimized to the least. Secondly is for sure following as much as you can the project guidelines, because then you have less troublesome when it comes to the evaluator. And yeah, for the last two, you can actually increase and play with the parameter when it comes to the minimum minor patches and minimum patch versions in minor versions. And you can even increase the number if you want to have a big pull request with much changes. And finally, once you get access to the Spryker CI, you need to go ahead and try to do dry runs as fast as possible so that you can know what are the bottlenecks before including it into your upgrade process. In one of the really good examples that I have witnessed when it comes to the first one, which was Lawful Heart, I'm not sure if they are here, yeah? So they have actually reached the state where they are using Upgrader at its maximum, let's say, capability, and they achieved the synchronized upgrades with automated iterations. So yeah, that's a good example of the best usage of Upgrade. For the evaluator checks, actually, I will not go through with all of it. This is the checks that I showed you in the pipeline. So it checks the dev code, it checks the minimum version, it checks the security vulnerabilities. It goes through also if you have the minimum PHP version, composer version, etc. Also, it goes beyond to check actually if there is any open source vulnerabilities for Symfony or NPM, and also that you don't have kind of complex code in dependency providers, meaning that you actually have simple code there instead of multi-dimensional arrays, single plugin, arguments, etc. So going to the case studies.
Great. So we had a few groups of customers and users who tried this in different case studies. Case study number one was the regular updates. So I want to receive them on the regular basis, not every day. And I had a few challenges, right? So I would like them to be plannable, that I can forecast them, the efforts. I would like to have them regularly. I would like to have flexibility to pick what I need, and many others. And those projects were from 2019 and 2022, so pretty actually also 5 years already back. And what we've seen is we've seen 2 to 3 times less efforts needing to apply the upgrade. And the most feedback that we've got is that size of the PR and configurations of how much to upgrade was very useful. That, like, of course, scheduling and integrating into the release processes that you have, like every month or every 3 months or every few weeks. Of course, full integration in the development process and conflicts, right? Because most of you raised your hand when I asked about customizations versus updates, right? So that's the thing that people found the most useful. Second case study was about continuous upgrades, right? So I am, as a user, I would like to be on the edge. I would like to be up to date at every time. And here it's a bit similar challenges, but some of them are different. So A, of course, continuous. I would like to have it on the next day when it is released. Then I had troubles because I needed to add plugins all around my project code in order to activate them and make them working. And of course, when you're like on the very edge, usually you might be missing documentation, right? Because you know that sometimes the code is shipped just before the documentation, and if you're upgrading at the same time, it's challenging. And that's there was a project from 2018. So there, we reduced the efforts to 22 days per year. Then, of course, most of the usable features were the same, right? So it was possible, or it was usable to filter out not needed releases, as Mohammed showed, to decide and highlight conflicts and decide what to do with them, connect to documentation, and of course, having a continuous one. So Mohammed already mentioned that you can run on a schedule, but upgrader never creates a pull request when you have one open. So it will not spam you with hundreds of pull requests like Renovate Bot does, for example, right? Where you have one per module and you're kind of crazy about it. We have actual testimonials from Löffelhardt, and the same Frederick is here. Giovanni is not here. Say hello to Giovanni. And Pfeiffer, who were very glad to share their testimonials where we saved efforts, we reduced TCO, and we allowed to invest this time into actual business development, right? And if you read the quotes carefully, the main goal was to pull the effort from maintaining into building new stuff that the business needs, to develop. You can find our documentation available online, so you
Before that, actually, do you have any numbers of how much efforts it's reduced?
22, like up to, so lower to 22 days per year, or like depending on the, so there's no like number standard for all of customers, right? Because it depends on the level of customizations, on like number of upgrades you need to do. And this also effort saving was important to understand as average, right? It's not that like every release right now is 1 day, no. Because sometimes Spryker does bigger releases and you might have more effort, sometimes the releases are very tiny and you have less effort. And if we're talking about the view on 1 year, so it was reduced to 22 days per year, or even like from the whole assessed efforts to 72% reduction. So like 1/4 stays, let's say like this. Yeah. So documentation, scan this code if you would like to learn more, or just Google for Spryker code upgrader, it will find the same documentation. And the very last slide. Thank you for attending, thank you for listening. Please give us feedback, win the prize, and I hope you enjoyed it.
Thank you, guys.
And we have 1 minute 30 for questions.
Ah, yes, we have time.
So who's going to upgrade tomorrow? No, wait, it's Friday. Monday. Questions?
Yeah.
You said you have to use Spryker cloud hosting
Yeah, so we package it with our cloud solution. Yeah. So the question was whether it's possible to use Spryker Code Upgrader without being on the cloud. So technically, yes, but from the business side, we would like to package it with our cloud solution because, like, our strategy is to offer cloud nativeness, right? To run everything in the cloud and to enhance this offer with more services around it, like this one, like managed stock that you've heard on the first talk, and many others, right? And we would like to offer it as a whole package to the customer so that they have like a Speisekarte menu to pick from and take whatever you exactly need. So, by the way, it's included by default for all new customers since a year or two already. So we can double check if you need the detail.
But I think Evaluator is available outside of Spryker Pass. So you can actually even try it locally.
Yeah, Evaluator you can try without Code Upgrader. There's a tool fully available for free. You don't need to pay anything because even though if you don't use the service of upgrading, at least we'd like to help you finding out potential troubles, especially security pieces, because Upgrader upgrades security for you for Spryker modules. If you don't use it, Evaluator will show you what you have to upgrade.
Yeah.
And we are over time, so I'm getting the signal.
Okay, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
that moment.
Thank you, guys.